about. We had a lot of people telling us that they're actually feeling better because they're able to spend much more time with their families. They haven't spent so much time with their children in a long time. And then, of course, the whole situation, the fact that there's been a shift from the way that things were being done previously, led to a whole new set of challenges associated with these changes. The other thing which I think has been a very significant change is in terms of, how just travel restrictions, the restrictions that we have in terms of going out to meet people. This could be our friends, our family. This has impacted all of us in a very deep way. It's really helped us, I think, in a lot of ways, think about how we socialize, and what our support systems are. So I think these, what we would have taken for granted in terms of either being a way to relax, rejuvenate, took a major hit for all of us. And things, what the very pillars of, how do we seek support for ourselves when things aren't going so well, is something that we started to think about a lot. So no longer could we go out and just meet a friend if we wanted to. It helped us really think about how else do we have to, gather support for ourselves. Who do we turn to? So it was, in a lot of ways, I think it's allowed us to think about things that we weren't thinking of earlier.
Hmm. That was really putting on a positive spin on a very nightmarish situation. But yeah, definitely, as you rightly mentioned, कि अब हम families के ज़्यादा close आ गए हैं. पहले हम इतना ज़्यादा अलग अलग थे. We were involved in so many different things कि हमें time नहीं मिलता था अपने parents के साथ बैठने का, अपने partners के साथ बैठने का, अपने बच्चों के साथ time spend करने का. But अब ऐसा हो गया है कि अब हम आई थिंक उनको बेहतर जानने लगे हैं या बेहतर उनके साथ एडजस्ट कर पा रहे हैं एंड दिस इज वन थिंग दैट हैज बीन अ पॉजिटिव side effect of the pandemic. Along with that, we have also learned how to stay connected with our loved ones. पहले मिलने जाते थे, अब मिलने नहीं जा पाते, लेकिन अब दूर से ही हम कैसे उनसे जुड़े रह सकते हैं, कैसे हम उनका सपोर्ट पा सकते हैं या कैसे हम सपोर्ट दे सकते हैं. और आजकल टेक्नोलॉजी इतनी एडवांस हो गई है कि हमने सबने वो भी सीख लिया. Zoom calls and all those meetings, that is something that I think we have been exposed to, a lot of us have been exposed to for the first time in our lives. वो भी सीख लिया है. So this is, I think, something that is one of the major impacts of this pandemic situation. I think everything is not all bad, but हम देख नहीं पा रहे हैं शायद. So I think, yeah, this has been a more, not only a negative experience, but a lot of positive experiences and learnings have also come out of this situation. Now we at Samvedna have been catering to different types of clients since many years. Initially, it was just focused on dealing with clients with dementia, but in this last 1 year, we have seen a lot of change in the kind of people who are coming to us with queries. And these are queries which are across a wide range. ना सिर्फ बूढ़ों के लिए बल्कि बच्चों के लिए, adults and all different kinds of people have approached us. And there has been some kind of change in the kind of issues that were reported earlier. Dr. Jayashree, would you like to highlight the kind of issues that people are coming up with?
Yeah, I think we've definitely at Samvedna, we've seen that there's been a huge surge in requirements. We've seen that a lot more people are reaching out for mental health support. And in a way, I think, a lot of challenges have always existed, but there's been a definite change in people being more positive about coming forward to seek help. So I think one of the challenges that people had previously was, about just being labeled if you seek help. And I think there's now become, we've seen a shift in people accepting the fact that it's okay to seek help. It's okay to reach out to a professional. There's so much more, talk about it openly. People are, talking openly about the stress that the pandemic has brought on. They're talking actively about how they can deal with it. And this is across age groups, right from children to adults and to older adults. So, we've seen a lot more older adults also coming in for help because they're facing issues of just being lonely, not able to go out, see their children, their family members. Um, a lot of people who had underlying mental health conditions have have faced significant challenges during this pandemic, and although there may have been an underlying condition, they may have never sought help for it earlier. So we've seen clients who've come in saying that, these things used to be problems, always, but we've never sought help before. And these problems may have lasted. I mean, we've had people coming in saying they felt lonely, had bouts of depression, for the past 5 years, but somehow managed through and, but never sought professional help. So we've seen a major shift in people seeking help. And I think that's a real positive. We've also seen that now you mentioned about technology. And one of the things that I think is really good is the fact that, we're here today and we're talking so openly about mental health and seeking support online with so many people. And this is really bringing these kind of challenges and struggles that people are facing to the forefront. So people are now able to connect with someone if they don't have to go. It's cutting through a lot of logistic barriers. And it's wonderful when we talk with so many of our older adults who've never done a Zoom call before. It's amazing. It's so wonderful to see them enthusiastically, patiently sit and understand how they can actually log into a call, join us for our sessions today. So thank you so much for all of you who are joining in today, especially those of you for whom this may be a first time. It's really good to overcome those hurdles and realize that this is one way of staying connected and reaching out to people. It's also a way through which professionals are now providing support. So this can be done from the comfort of your home, which is a really great change.
Right. So बिल्कुल आपने सही कहा कि अब लोगों का हेल्प सीकिंग बिहेवियर बहुत बढ़ गया है. जो चीजें पहले इग्नोर कर दी जाती थी, आजकल लोगों का अटेंशन ज्यादा जाता है. मुझे इतनी घबराहट क्यों हो रही है, या मुझे इतना लो क्यों फील हो रहा है, या मुझे इतना रोना क्यों आ रहा है, इतना गुस्सा क्यों आ रहा है. ये चीजें जो पहले हम इग्नोर कर रहे थे, आजकल अब ऐसा हो रहा है कि लोगों का अटेंशन भी जा रहा है, एंड दे आर ऑल्सो मोर ओपन टू टेकिंग प्रोफेशनल हेल्प. जहां तक पहले की बात थी, पहले डिफरेंट सिचुएशन थी. इफ वी टॉक अबाउट 2019 और द इयर्स प्रायर टू दैट, तब स्टिग्मा था, अवेयरनेस कम थी. स्टिग्मा खैर अभी भी है, ऐसा नहीं है कि खत्म हो गया, बट अवेयरनेस अब पहले से ज्यादा है. बहुत सारे लोग हमारे पास ये इश्यूज भी लेकर आते हैं कि बहुत अकेलापन लगता है या कोई बात करने को नहीं है. तो ये प्रॉब्लम इतनी कॉमन हो गई थी कि हमारे पास लोग आने लग गए थे टू टेक हेल्प एंड टू गेट सम काइंड ऑफ रेमेडी फॉर दैट. और हमने पूरी कोशिश की कि इस डिफिकल्ट टाइम में हम इन लोगों का साथ दे सकें और इनको हम बेहतर फील भी करवा सकें. और जहां तक बात आती है कि सिर्फ नेगेटिव ही हुआ है, it's not been all negative, and I am constantly emphasizing the fact that 2020 was not all negative. It has been good in some ways. It's just a way of looking at things, कि हम कौन से नजरिए से चीज को देखना चाहते हैं. गिलास आधा खाली है या आधा भरा हुआ है. This is what we need to focus on. Anyway, moving on to one of the major ways in which we deal with problems is talking to someone. ज्यादातर हम ये करते हैं कि अगर कोई तकलीफ हो रही है तो हम किसी अपने से बात करें, पर कई बार ऐसा होता है कि ये चीज काम नहीं कर पाती है. अगर हम अपने दोस्तों से, पेरेंट्स से या किसी और क्लोज इंसान से बात भी कर रहे हैं अपनी समस्या की, तो हल नहीं निकल पाता। बट ये काफी कॉमनली एज अ कोपिंग स्ट्रेटेजी यूज किया जाता है। अगर अब ये काम नहीं करता तो क्या करें? क्या और भी कोई तरीके हैं जो हेल्प कर सकते हैं, या ऐसी भी कोई कोपिंग स्ट्रेटजीज हैं जो कि अनहेल्पफुल हो सकती हैं? इसके बारे में डॉक्टर जयश्री आपको बताएंगी, और साथ के साथ आप सब लोगों से एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप अपनी कोपिंग स्ट्रेटजीज यहाँ पे हमसे शेयर करें कि जब आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम होती है तो आप क्या करते हैं? किसी से बात करते हैं, टीवी देखते हैं, सो जाते हैं, क्या करते हैं? Dr. Jayashree, could you please share with us what are the ways in which we can deal with any kind of stress or any other psychological problems?
Yeah, I think it will be wonderful to hear how people have been coping with the stressful situations that they've been experiencing. So please share in the chat window what you've done that you found helpful. And then, because one of the things that is always useful is to see what people are doing, learn from that as well. So do type in what you found most useful. But generally, if I were to talk about some of the things that are useful to help us cope with various stressful situations, and very broadly, of course, every situation is very different. But some of the things I think we need to keep in mind overall for general well-being and to keep manage day-to-day stressors is firstly, I think one really important thing is just maintenance of a routine. And I think that is one thing which got impacted severely during this entire pandemic. Our routines have gone completely haywire. Um, so it's important that even if things are, even if you're experiencing a change in your routine for some reason, due to, maybe somebody in the family not being well, coping with some sort of illness, or because they're now no longer able to step out for work, or because, a lot of, children are all doing schooling from home. So all these kind of situations, they add to additional daily stresses, and the routine that every individual follows goes for a toss. So the first really important thing is to try and see how you can build or revise a routine and try and follow that. So it's important to kind of, in that routine, incorporate a couple of very key aspects. One is have a separate time for the work that you do. This could be your, if you're working, it could be the work that you do. If you're a homemaker, it, working is, all the household chores. Allocate time for that as part of that routine. And equally important is to allocate time for rest or relaxation. And it's a lot of people that we've been interacting with who are just saying they're feeling overwhelmed. They just don't know what to do. It's because they're struggling with allocating this time and building in these kind of boundaries between them. Hello. Sorry, I think it was on mute. One of the things that's really important is to try and follow a routine. So it's very important for us to incorporate a routine so that we are able to manage not only the work that we're doing. So if you're working, then it's your, the job that you do. If you're a homemaker, it is a household chores. That's also very important work, and it can consume your entire day unless you allocate time for each activity. The other thing that's really important to also add into this routine is some time for yourself and some time for relaxation. So it's important to also incorporate some activity that gives you pleasure. It could be for a short duration, it could be something that you enjoy doing for even a small period of time, but it's important to add that in as a very key ingredient of this routine. So could be reading, could be watching a movie, could be listening to some music, could be writing, painting, anything, whatever gives you pleasure. It could just be picking up the phone and calling a friend or a family member, but some point in the day where you're doing something that you enjoy. The other aspect which is really important and critical to incorporate into this routine is time for rest. So it's really important that you follow a routine where you um, try to go to sleep at a similar time almost every day, so that you're not experiencing a huge shift in your sleep cycles. Because when we sleep, it helps us to rejuvenate and feel refreshed. And this is another challenge that we've seen a lot of people facing during this pandemic, is that they're just having a lot of difficulty sleeping. When they're not able to sleep, it makes them feel more anxious, it makes them feel more irritable. It has a spin-off effect. So I think these are a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. Follow a routine, incorporate some time for relaxation and rest. Also incorporate, follow basic good nutrition, and also follow, see how you can incorporate some exercise. So I think these are like four key aspects that we need to keep in mind to just deal with daily stressors.
दैट्स वेरी राइट। डॉक्टर जयश्री ने हमें 4 अलग-अलग तरह की चीजें बताई हैं जो कि बहुत बेसिक लेवल पे हमारे स्ट्रेस को कम करती हैं, हमें बेटर फील कराती हैं। रूटीन की जहां तक बात करते हैं, वो उसका मतलब ये है कि चीजें ज्यादातर टाइमली हो। अगर हम खाना भी खा रहे हैं तो टाइम से खाएं, या अगर हम सोने के लिए जा रहे हैं तो टाइम से सोएं। ऐसा नहीं है कि आप कभी भी खाना खा रहे हैं या कभी भी सो रहे हैं या कभी भी कोई भी एक्टिविटीज कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि ये आपके बॉडी क्लॉक को भी डिस्टर्ब करता है। और जैसा कि हम सब जानते हैं, माइंड एंड बॉडी आर कनेक्टेड। जब तक बॉडी आपकी हैप्पी फील नहीं करेगी, माइंड भी हैप्पी फील नहीं करेगा। तो बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है कि आपका मोर और लेस फिक्स्ड रूटीन हो। ये नहीं कह रहे कि बिल्कुल क्लॉक वर्क की तरह आपका इतने बजे ये करना है या उतने बजे वो करना है, बट ज्यादा से ज्यादा जितना पॉसिबल हो सके, यू नीड टू टेक केयर ऑफ हाउ यू आर स्पेंडिंग योर डे। दूसरी एक चीज है कि हम बाउंड्रीज सेट करें। काम कर रहे हैं तो उसके आवर्स फिक्स्ड होने चाहिए, आराम कर रहे हैं तो उसके आवर्स फिक्स्ड होने चाहिए। यू शुड नो व्हेन टू अनप्लग। ज्यादातर लोग आजकल भी वर्क फ्रॉम होम ही कर रहे हैं, अभी भी प्रॉपरली सारी चीजें नहीं खुल पाई हैं। तो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि आप काम के समय घर का काम कर रहे हैं या घर के काम के टाइम पे आप ऑफिस का काम कर रहे हैं। इससे स्ट्रेस किस पे पड़ेगा? आप ही के ऊपर पड़ेगा। सो आपके लिए बहुत जरूरी है कि आपको अपने टाइमिंग्स जो हैं, एटलीस्ट काम के और आराम के दोनों में फर्क समझ में आना चाहिए, एंड यू शुड नो के कब उसको बंद करना है। तीसरी चीज, रेस्ट या रिलैक्सेशन बहुत ही जरूरी है। हम इतनी सारी चीजों में इन्वॉल्व रहते हैं कि हम अपने पसंद की चीजों को टाइम ही नहीं दे पाते। अगर मुझे पढ़ने का शौक है तो मैं एक किताब उठा के पढ़ लूं, या अगर मुझे गार्डनिंग का शौक है मैं दिन में 15-20 मिनट उसमें स्पेंड कर लूं, या अगर मुझे योग करना है, मेडिटेशन करनी है। ये चीजें भी आपके रूटीन को बहुत बेहतर बना सकती हैं। तो इनको कभी भी कैजुअली ना लिया जाए। और चौथी चीज, न्यूट्रिशन। खाना समय से खाना, खाने में प्रॉपर न्यूट्रिएंट्स होना बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है। खाना एंड एक्सरसाइज, ये 2 चीजें हैं जो किसी भी डॉक्टर से आप पूछ लें, वो आपको यही कहेंगे कि ये बहुत जरूरी है, लेकिन हम ध्यान नहीं देते। तो हमेशा ये 4 चीजों का ध्यान रखना है कि रूटीन, आपकी रिलैक्सिंग एक्टिविटीज, योर लिमिट सेटिंग, एंड फोर्थ इज योर न्यूट्रिशन। ये 4 चीजें अगर आप अपनी लाइफ में रखते हैं, सो दे वुड बी हेल्पफुल इन रिड्यूसिंग योर डिस्ट्रेस एंड मेकिंग यू हैप्पियर। अब बात आती है कि 2020 जो था, हम लोगों के लिए कितना सेटिस्फैक्टरी रहा। ज्यादातर लोगों के लिए नहीं रहा, लेकिन अगर हमें रेट करना हो, दिस इज गोइंग टू बी एन एक्टिविटी विच आई वांट एवरीबॉडी टू पार्टिसिपेट इन। कि अगर आपको एक स्केल दिया जाता है जो कि 0 से 10 तक है, आपको बताना है कि आप 2020 में अपनी जिंदगी से कितने सेटिस्फाइड रहे. How satisfied were you in 2020 with your life? You have to rate that on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being the maximum. ये बिल्कुल satisfied नहीं थे. So I would request all of you to participate and just type out a number कि आप कितने खुश रहे या कितने नाखुश रहे इस साल. Moving on to the next important aspect of this discussion. यूजुअली जब भी कोई नया साल शुरू होता है, हम रेजोल्यूशन बनाते हैं कि इस साल वेट लॉस होगा, या इस साल हम फिटनेस पे फोकस करेंगे, या इस साल हम हॉलिडे पे जाएंगे, सो मेनी डिफरेंट थिंग्स. कितने लोग हैं आप में से जो कि इस चीज को पूरा करते हैं? इफ यू कुड जस्ट लेट अस नो कि आप पूरा साल फॉलो करते हो, आई सैल्यूट यू. But mostly what happens is that whenever we make such plans, it is very hard to stick to them. अगर वेट लॉस का ही आपका गोल है, जैसे मेरा बहुत बार होता है, every year I think about it and then after February वो खत्म हो जाता है. It does not stick. Now why is it that we are not able to follow through with our goals? क्यों हो जाता है? क्या कभी किसी ने सोचा है ये? So let's see कि ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है और क्या चीजें हैं जो हम कर सकते हैं कि हमारे गोल्स को हम अचीव कर पाए. Dr. Jayashree, please help us understand why we are not able to stick to our New Year resolutions and what we can do about that.
Right. Before we get into that, Meenakshi, I was wondering, I'm very curious to see how people have rated their satisfaction level in 2020. Do let us know. So basically, if you're, I mean, can you just explain again, Meenakshi, on the scale of 0 to 10? How? Okay, so great. So how would you rate your satisfaction level overall? Sometimes it's important to pause and think about these things. So
Okay.
10 is where you're completely dissatisfied,
Mm-hmm.
and 1 is where you're
0 is we are satisfied.
0 is where you're satisfied.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so it seems like most people are quite unsure. It's in the middle. It's somewhere around a 4 or a 5, where it's been more or less a bit of a year that's where you're not sure whether you're satisfied or dissatisfied. So definitely just adding to the confusion of the way the year has gone. How what has been most challenging? Can you just share? I mean, feel free to do this privately with us as well if you want to on private chat, but otherwise just type in, what is it that's been most challenging for you during this year? What is it that has been most challenging for you? I know that there's, okay, so I see that it's a very different year. Yeah, it's definitely different, very different. Any specific challenges? What is it that's been most challenging? It'll be interesting to know. Is it financial aspects that have been most troubling? Is it just being focused? Just being very hard to be patient? So just challenging to yourself motivated to do what you are doing? What are some of the challenges that you're facing? Difficulty traveling, challenges due to quarantine. What else? What else are some of the things that people have been struggling with? Let us know. Just keep typing that in, and do remember to please type in any questions or any queries that you have. You can share them in the chat window. Either if you feel like you want to maintain, ask it to us privately, you please do send your questions in privately or just type it directly into the chat window. Actually, you'd asked about how we can really set a goal. And I think one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of people saying, who are listening in, is that it's just very hard to be to manage with all the different changes that have occurred as a result of the pandemic, and to deal with all these different changes. The things that they used to enjoy previously, particularly travel. I see a lot of people have put in travel as one of the areas that's been very hard to not do. These kind of things are really impacting them, and these are things that they're struggling with. Sometimes when we say we want to make goals, we often, and Meenakshi, I mean, you highlighted something that happens to me as well. We make these great big New Year's resolutions. We try our best to follow them till Feb, or the other way is that you think about following them till Feb, and then you don't even bother doing that anymore. So sometimes it's really hard to set goals for ourselves. And one of the things that you do, I mean, I think you may have heard of this earlier, is a simple acronym of SMART goals, right? So S stands for make your goals as specific as you can. M, see how you can make them, how you can measure how you're doing in terms of working towards achieving that goal. A, attainable. Is it something that you can actually achieve? That's something worth thinking about. R, is it relevant for you? And T, is it time bound? So I mean, I think this is something which a lot of us may have heard of earlier, but I just like to highlight a couple of things. Our goals in a pandemic situation where things are constantly changing, we're having to deal with newer things. We're having to deal with certain emotions that we may not have, that may not have necessarily been in the forefront previously. It's important to keep our goals. Our goals don't necessarily have to be really big. We may want to think about smaller goals. So break things down to something that's really small, really attainable, and try to see if you can make it, try to see if you can specify it into something that you can clearly define. This is really important because when you can define a goal, it kind of really helps you see what you need to do to get towards it. Think about the steps that you need to take to go towards that, and set a timeline on it. It's really important to do that because you might not be able to achieve the entire goal, but it's important to keep a timeline on it and also review it to see whether it needs to be modified in some way. So I know a lot of people that we interacted with, for example, had goals of going to, wanting to meet their, parents, travel, and, stay with them during a particular time of the year. It wasn't possible. Just a simple example of a goal is to say that I'm going to take out some, half an hour in the day, every day, to do a call with them. And it seems it's definitely, a very specific goal. It's very measurable. It's, it's something that can be attained. And it's something that's going towards working on how you can remain connected, let a person feel less alone, and share something with them to help uplift their mood when you can't be there physically. So this is just a small example of some of the a goal that you can set to, which is a very helpful goal where, like a lot of people in the family would benefit from.
राइट सो बिल्कुल आपने सही बताया कि जितना ब्रॉड गोल होगा उतना ही उसको अचीव करने में कंफ्यूजन रहेगी. अगर हमें एग्जैक्टली पता है क्या करना है तो उसको शायद पूरा करना भी उतना ही आसान रहेगा. अगर मैं ये सोचूं कि मुझे रीडिंग शुरू करनी है, अब इसको मैं मेजर कैसे करूं? या मैं इसको अचीव कैसे करूं, कितना पढूं और कितना नहीं पढूं. Rather than that, I can think about reading one book in a month, one small 100-page book in a month. I think इतना achievable होना चाहिए. और I think अगर हम ये भी कर ले, so we would not feel that we have experienced failure. क्योंकि जब हम जरूरत से ज्यादा बड़ा गोल बनाते हैं, वो आपको एक सेंस ऑफ फेलियर भी देता है, जो कि मेंटल हेल्थ के लिए अच्छा नहीं है. तो हम उतना ही बड़ा सोचें जितना कि कंफर्टेबली कर पाए, ना कि उतना कि मेरे लिए मुश्किल हो और मैं उसको बीच में ही छोड़ दूं. तो अगर माउंट एवरेस्ट पे भी चढ़ना है, पहले आपको पहाड़ पे चढ़ना सीखना पड़ेगा ना, एक ही दिन में नहीं चढ़ जाएंगे. या मैराथन भी रेस रन करनी है, यू नीड टू प्रैक्टिस बिफोर दैट. डेली छोटे छोटे स्टेप्स लेने से यू माइट बी एबल टू रीच द बिगर गोल. आप स्मार्ट गोल्स पे ध्यान रखें, और अगर आप कोई न्यू ईयर रेजोल्यूशन बनाना चाहते हैं, वो इस तरीके से बनाएं कि आप उसको पूरा कर सकें. मैं भी अपने ऑडियंस से ये रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि अगर आपको स्मार्ट गोल्स क्लियर हो गए हैं, तो आप अपना एक स्मार्ट गोल हमारे साथ शेयर करें कि आप 2021 में क्या करना चाहते हैं. प्लीज शेयर दैट इन द चैट बॉक्स बिलो. आज का जो हमारा सेशन था, उसमें हमने मेंटल हेल्थ, कोपिंग स्ट्रैटेजीज और गोल सेटिंग के बारे में बात की है. ये ऐसी चीजें नहीं है जो कि सिर्फ हम 2021 के लिए यूज करना चाहते हैं. ये ऐसी चीजें हैं जो कि लाइफ लॉन्ग आपके काम आएंगी. सो मेंटल हेल्थ की जब भी हम बात करेंगे, ये चीजें आपके लिए बहुत ज्यादा यूजफुल रहेंगी. सो कोई भी आपके मन में अगर सवाल है, इफ देयर इज एनी क्लैरिफिकेशन दैट यू नीड, can please type that in the chat window and we would be happy to answer that. Dr. Jayashree, in the end, would you like to give them a few key pointers which they could take home with them?
I think I think one thing that we've talked about, which is really important, is trying to maintain a routine for your overall mental health. And SMART goals is one way to do that. Try and see if you can incorporate that into your routine building. Incorporate aspects of self-care is another aspect, because this year has really shown us that things can be very unexpected, but it's also brought out a lot of ways in which it's shown us a lot of positives. It's shown us that we can be very resilient also. So there's two sides to it. I think it's important to remember not to despair, but at the same time, it's also important that if you are I think it's important for people to remember that just because everybody is talking a lot about distress and challenges that they're experiencing, it's important to not think that it's okay to just struggle like that. If you are experiencing something that's a challenge, and you're doing your bit to try and cope with it, you've tried doing your routine, you've tried to set your goals, and it's still not happening. That doesn't mean that there's something don't look at it as a sign of failure. Don't look at it as a sign that you've not been able to incorporate things that people are saying, or you've not been able to work on that. It's important to realize that in case you are struggling, it's sometimes important to acknowledge that as a challenge, and maybe there is a need to seek professional help to get you over some of the hurdles that you're facing. So we have a lot of people who, for example, have been saying that they're just feeling very lonely, very cut off. And one of the common queries that we've had from a lot of people are, does that mean I'm depressed? I don't even know if I'm depressed. Rather than sitting with this question in your mind, seek help from a professional. So I think that's really important. What this year has really shown us is that it's important to talk about mental health related issues. If you're feeling anxious and you don't know whether your anxiety warrants professional help or not, get your doubts cleared. Approach a professional. And they will help you understand whether this is, how you can get this concern out of your mind. They'll help you with specific ways to deal with some of the things that might be causing anxiety for you. If you're feeling worried about the future and you're not sure whether this is an unrealistic fear or it's something that is something that everybody is worrying about, seek help from a professional. It'll help you understand and put it into perspective, help you realize what you can do about that. If you're feeling really sad and lonely, you're experiencing crying spells, maybe you're just struggling to get up in the morning, deal with your routine, you're fed up of having everybody at home, working from home, managing multiple household chores, managing with children at home. Depression sometimes is viewed very negatively, it's very stigmatizing, but seek help for it if you feel that whatever you've tried isn't working for you. And that's probably one of the things that I think this whole pandemic has taught us, is that when you reach out for support and help, that that's the first step in beginning to feel better about some of these unexpected things that we're a lot of us are experiencing because of this pandemic.
Right. So the key message that Dr. Jayashree wants to give here is कि कई बार प्रॉब्लम्स हमसे हल नहीं हो पाती, कई बार बहुत लंबी खिंच जाती हैं, या कई बार 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 आने लग जाती है। और 3 कीवर्ड्स होते हैं, ड्यूरेशन, फ्रीक्वेंसी एंड इंटेंसिटी। कि कोई प्रॉब्लम अगर बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ रही है या बार बार हो रही है या बहुत लंबे समय तक हो रही है और कितनी भी कोशिश करने पर वो ठीक नहीं हो रही है, then it is time to take professional help. किसी mental health professional से बात करें and get a solution for that. This is very important. संवेदना काफी एक्टिवली मेंटल हेल्थ के ऊपर काम कर रहा है। हमने बहुत सारे अवेयरनेस कैंपेन्स किए हैं, हम स्क्रीनिंग कैंप्स भी कर रहे हैं, and we have done a lot of talks on these issues. I'm sure you must have been a part of a few of them, and we would keep on doing these talks more in the future. Archana ma'am, would you like to add anything to this?
No, so I think it's a great discussion. So Jayashree, just to ask you some more questions, and since you are an expert in this field, so I just want to know that are Indians more resilient than the Western convert? That I think I'm seeing everybody has rated their satisfaction level between 0 to mid, and I think as a race, or as Indians, I think our resilience is much higher than the developed world. So I don't know, what do you have to say about that?
I'm going to be. I don't have. I'm going to respond with a bit of caution, because I don't know whether we can say that we're more resilient than others. Definitely, I think from just anecdotally from the people that I see around, the way that we've coped up with the challenges that we're facing, I would like to believe that we definitely know how to deal with challenges. I think a couple of things that we're very good at is adapting. I think Indians can be very flexible. I don't know whether we're more or less flexible than people in other parts of the world, but definitely just by looking around us, and if you all look around at people that you're with, I think there are multiple examples that you can think of where we definitely see that in our environment. So adaptability, flexibility, these definitely are aspects that do help us deal with situations and become more resilient. So I'm hoping that a lot of that is going to push through in 2021, and that's going to help us take head on whatever challenges the next year throws our way.
Yeah. Actually, I hear from the audience if they have any resilient stories to share with us, as to how they coped with this year in terms of, even if it is just doing the cooking or the chores on your own. But any anecdotes or anybody wants to share how they kind of yeah. So we have a hand raised. So anybody wants to share how they coped with this whole thing? What did they do? Like, or something interesting. So Tarka, are you raising your hand? Okay. No, I think that was probably a mistake. But Dr. Handa is here with us today. So Dr. Handa, would you like to share anything about resilience or your coping strategies during the whole year?
What can I say about coping strategies? It all comes with practice and reinforcing our thoughts and our belief and our faith, which has been really reinforced multiple times in the last 9 months. That is for me, that has worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And obviously, if anybody asks me, I would again suggest these things.
Yeah.
And yes, just the company of Meenakshi and Jayashri has been very stimulating. Like, I get to learn, so I've got to learn so much from both of you. And that has again reinforced our strategies.
And thank you, ma'am. And I think one of the things that's really important is, when we all share about what works for us, you just get more and more ideas of things to try out. I'm
Yeah.
curious to know from people who are listening in, how many of you tried your hand at learning a new skill or doing something that you never thought you would have done previously? And if so, what was it that you tried to do?
I tried crochet.
Wow. Okay, great. Type in the chat window, what was a new thing that you tried during this pandemic period? Baking, crochet, any other things that people have tried? The reason why I was mentioning this is because sometimes when we try to engage in different kind of activities, learn a new skill, we also do something that's pleasurable and interesting. It's positive, helps us feel good when we do these kind of things. So these are really important things that work to make us feel better. And I know a lot of people have tried various kind of things during this period. Great. So there's, definitely, I think one of the positives is that we've all saved, okay, as someone's mentioned, they've spent a lot of time has been saved from commute. They're doing a lot more walking and hiking, exercise. I know a lot of people who've started to actually regularly incorporate that as part of their routines.
Yeah. So on a personal note, I would like to just share that just because of the lockdown and nothing else, I have learned to live with fewer things in life. So I think that's a big learning, which probably all of us have experienced, and maybe 2 years down the line, I think this is going to be a story we're going to tell our children and grandchildren. I think one day that we have experienced the pandemic. I think the last pandemic was 100 years ago. So now we will have stories to share of resilience and patience and frugality. So with other people around us or younger generation, the next generation.
And I think decluttering is another really important thing that's very important. A lot of times you may feel overwhelmed if your physical space is very cluttered, or we talk a lot about emotional decluttering, but even within your physical space, if you stay in a place which is very cluttered, it may sometimes seem it can have an impact on you. So I do know a lot of people have actually utilized this pandemic time to declutter, and they feel great about it. So that's really good. Okay, someone's mentioned that they've tried learning softwares, maths. So fantastic things that people have, really interesting things that people have been doing during the pandemic time. So I hope that those of you who are listening in, if there are suggestions in there which you haven't tried, you can, you know, draw some inspiration from people who've tried these different skills, and definitely maybe those could be part of some of the goals that you could set for yourself in 2021. So I'd like to thank all of you for joining in today in this session. It's been wonderful to hear what you've been doing to cope with through the pandemic. And it's been so many months. I think all of us have tried various things, and yes, some things work better than the others. I think many people have found newer coping strategies during this pandemic. And people have also found newer sources of strength to deal with challenging situations. And we've all realized that we have a lot more resilience within us. And I think just to add, for those people who may still feel like they're struggling, it is possible that if you're continuing to struggle and you're finding that you're not able to deal with the situation, that's fine. But it is important that if you're experiencing that, to seek professional help, because maybe that's the indicator that you need to reach out to a professional who can help you deal with whatever challenges you're going through, and help you to build that kind of strength and resilience, which you may not be finding from within yourself at the moment or from around your environment. So Archana, over to you.
Yeah. So thanks Jayashree, and thanks Meenakshi for taking us through this, and talking about mental health. And I hope as Indians we can make mental health also a priority in the coming years, and look at it as we do at our physical health, so, and give it the same value. And like Jayashree saying, seek out help, reach for professional help, or if the personal help of friends and family is not working, sometimes it is just a simple reassurance consultation, or a chat with a professional can help you that you're on the right track. And we have had so many of those cases also, and some of them have come to us well in time to be take appropriate steps to kind of redirect themselves into taking care of themselves. So with that, I would like to thank you all and everybody for joining in today. Have a great New Year Eve and a new year ahead. This is probably our last session of this year. We do have a memory screening camp organized, which is going to be online on the 23rd of December. So we'll be sending out the details of that. So that is, these screening camps, like Jayashree was mentioning, is primarily to encourage people to come forward and just talk to the professional. And these are all free camps, so they have to just sign up for it, and they, we get a 15-20 minute slot with the psychologist or the counselor, and they would do an evaluation and address your queries and let you know if you need to take if you should be taking professional help. So have a safe evening, good weekend, and see you soon, all of you, and keep in touch. And thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jayashri. Thanks, Meenakshi.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, all right. Bye-bye.